that are happening there simply are beyond the pale or simply unacceptable.
Finally, if I can ask you, Mr. Luck, does the UN chief have any plans to speak to Muammar Gaddafi again?
I don't know if he does or not. I think it's a very good thing that he reached out, that he delivered the message. And it may be that there's an opportunity later where he can play a different kind of a role in helping to bring this to a more peaceful conclusion. But we're not there yet.
All right, Mr. Luck, talking to us there from New York. Thank you.
Thank you.
Let's bring you some other news now. And rescue efforts are continuing in New Zealand, where hundreds of people are still missing, and that's following Tuesday's earthquake in Christchurch. But hopes are fading for more survivors. There have been more than 100 aftershocks, and both the airport and parts of the city remain closed. Here's Andrew Thomas.
The rescue efforts continue, but with each passing hour, hopes fade. Here, where there stood a 6-story building containing a TV station and a language school, now just smouldering rubble. There's no chance any more people can be pulled alive from here. Between 50 and 80 were inside when it fell. Elsewhere, though, there is still a faint chance more survivors can be found. At one city centre office block, a woman was pulled alive from the rubble after more than 25 hours trapped. This dramatic footage, filmed on Tuesday, shows the conditions under which rescuers are working. Dark, dangerous, but the result here, a life saved. AlJazeera has obtained new footage of the moment the earthquake hit a Christian leadership meeting.
There's the earthquake I told you we were going to have. That's there.
The carnage it caused seen firsthand by New Zealand's Prime Minister on Wednesday.
All New Zealanders have a piece of our heart in Christchurch. All of our lives are touched by this event. A friend or a family member who lives there, a time spent studying or a memorable experience there. We feel connected to your suffering. Your tragedy is our tragedy. Today I want Christchurch to hear this message. You will get through this. This proud country is right behind you, and we are backing you with all our might.
As if conditions weren't already tough enough, concerned that aftershocks could bring more buildings tumbling down. This hotel, one of the tallest buildings in town, leans precariously to one side. Each new sway of the ground, and on Wednesday there have been many, brings fears it will fall. This building is typical now of so many in Christchurch. A real mess. You can see the walls have been ripped off, rooms exposed, rubble on the ground. It was actually hit by the more minor earthquake in September and was being restored after that earthquake when yesterday's hit. And yesterday's, I'm afraid, finished it off. Out of town too, the fort's clear. Beautiful tourist drives, now rock-strewn assault courses. In the city, everyone affected. Water where available must be boiled. Half of all homes without power. Those that can, leaving. Christchurch Airport reopen, but packed with people desperate to get out. New Zealand is one of the least populated countries on Earth, famous for its wide open spaces. The terrible irony here, that this quake hit one of its most crowded places at one of its busiest times. Andrew Thomas, AlJazeera, Christchurch.
In Yemen, protests have been going on for 2 weeks in the country, and now 7 members of the ruling party have resigned, saying they'll form a new independent bloc. 2 pro-democracy activists were killed and more than 10 were injured in clashes overnight. Witnesses say armed government supporters opened fire at demonstrators, and that was in the capital, Sana'a. And that's where AlJazeera's Hashim Ahalbara is with the latest.
There appears to be more cracks on the government and the political elite here in Yemen. The Minister of Tourism, Nabil Hassan al-Faqih, has told President Ali Abdullah Saleh that huge reforms are overdue and that Yemen needs early elections in September 2011 without Ali Abdullah Saleh as running as a candidate for the Minister of Tourism. This is the only way to save Yemen from impasse and from further deterioration of the security situation. 8 members of the ruling party have also resigned from the parliament, citing concerns over situation in Yemen and the violent attacks on the pro-democracy protesters. We also understand that the second highest ranking official at the Ministry of Local Administration, has also resigned over what he describes as rampant corruption and violent attacks by government loyalists against pro-democracy protesters. Ali Abdullah Saleh remains defiant. He's saying that he understands that people are looking forward to change, but therefore change should be only dictated by ballot box, and that he refuses this whole idea of people inspired by events in Libya, Tunisia and Egypt and taking to the streets to enforce their own agenda of change.
Saudi Arabia's King Abdullah has promised $10.7 billion in pay rises, job creation and leniency on loans. He made the announcement as he returned home after spending 3 months abroad for medical treatment. The new development fund is being set up to help struggling Saudis buy homes, get married and start businesses as well. 7 people have been injured during clashes in the Greek capital, Athens. During the demonstration, a policeman was set on fire. There he is, as he tried to put the fire out. Other officers rushed to his aid. Protesters also hurled rocks at the security forces, who responded with tear gas. Tens of thousands of people took part in the protests, which were part of a general strike against austerity measures. At least 4 people have been arrested. Residents in Abidjan have fled their homes, fearing more violence after reports of gun battles in one of the neighborhoods. It's thought up to 15 soldiers who supported the incumbent leader Laurent Gbagbo were killed during an ambush. Still to come on Al Jazeera, seeking safety, but will the thousands fleeing Libya be allowed into other countries? And rehabilitating former foes, Pakistan tries to reintegrate the Swat Valley's Taliban fighters. That's coming up.
Al Jazeera focused on political turmoil.
Security presence is very high.
We focused on those fighting for their cause and those fighting for survival.
He was shot with a gun.
On the sharing of power
I, Morgan Richard Sangrai,
and the taking of land. We focused on the deep seas and the dunes of the desert plains. Throughout Africa, we focus on news and documentaries that matter to you. Al Jazeera, television that truly inspires.
As geeks take on dictators, bloggers turn dissidents, and social networks root for social justice, governments are going cyber, spying on their citizens, erecting firewalls like iron curtains, and closing down websites. We ask, is cyber-generated change virtual or real? Empire on Al Jazeera.